On June 23rd, the $1 exchange rate broke through 1,300 won for the first time in 13 years. In the Seoul foreign exchange market, the exchange rate of the won against the dollar ended at 1,301.80 won per dollar, up 4.51 from the previous day's closing price. The $1 exchange rate closed at 1,301 for the first time in 12 years and 11 months since July 13, 2009. The won's depreciation was accelerating as global tightening moves and fears of an economic recession grew. This was largely due to the strong sentiment toward safe haven assets as Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell acknowledged the possibility of a recession in a Senate hearing. Historically, the exchange rate of 1,300 won was a phenomenon that occurred during the financial crisis. At the time of the Asian financial crisis in 1997, the exchange rate of Korea crossed the 1,300 won mark for the first time and reached almost 1,900 won. In 2000, when the dot-com bubble burst, the exchange rate soared 1,300 won, soared during the 2008 financial crisis. The exchange rate soared to 1,600 won. This crisis was a continuation of the subprime mortgage crisis in the United States. After that, it showed a relatively stable flow. However, during the corona pandemic, it briefly rose to around 1,300 won in some cases. A rise in the $1 exchange rate is a boon for exporters. The increase in the $1 exchange rate has the effect of receiving more won. However, due to inflation and the interest rate hikes, the possibility that global consumer sentiment will contract. For Korean companies that depend on foreign imports for most of their raw materials, gains from rise in the exchange rate are eventually offset by an increase in raw material import prices. In addition, if the US aggressively raises the benchmark interest rate and the economic slowdown becomes visible, it will be a direct blow to the Korean economy, an exporting country. If purchasing power declines due to the global economic downturn, exports could suffer. Unlikely in the past, the positive impact of the high exchange rate on price competitiveness is limited, as not only the won but also currencies other than dollar are weakening. In the Korean economy, the manufacturing sector is slowing due to disruptions in the global supply chain and soaring raw material prices. There is also a possibility that the economy may slow, mainly in exports, as inflation rises. Due to a sharp rise in raw material prices, which reduces the purchasing power of households and companies, and global demand decreases due to uncertainty due to the timing of interest rate hikes.